Hello. Thought I'd go live for a little bit. I actually meant to go live earlier, and today just kind of got by me. Um, oh my God, I don't even know what to say. I don't even know what to say because, whew, I didn't expect that. I never even opened the door to that, so here we are, right? But what I can tell you is that the number one thing you need to do is to protect your peace because I remember those 4 years, and that's when my cortisol started to go out of whack. So you got to protect your peace because your central nervous system may be going off. So, you know, protect your peace. And that means if you unfriend some people, if you unfollow some people, if you unfriend some people in real life, right? If you unfriend some family in real life, if it's to protect your peace, I say go for it. Because I certainly am. I have come too far to let anybody else protect my peace. And I will tell people in a heartbeat, I went no contact with my own mama for like 7 years. So I don't know what make you think you would be any better or any different. So definitely protect your peace. Um, you know, it is what it is. And I've always said, no matter what happens, I'm going to be okay. Right. I've always said, no matter who gets elected, my life is my responsibility and I will definitely be okay. Right. So we will be okay. There was something I was thinking about though, and I was like, oh, you should go live. And then that turned into put a pizza in the oven, and here we are. So, definitely protect your peace. Nothing happens immediately. That's the beauty of it. So in the meantime, you can start preparing and doing various things that you need to do depending upon who you are, where you are, and what your situation is. Um, but in the meantime, definitely protect your peace. I don't really have tolerance for it. I just really don't. Like the hypocrisy, the lies, the gaslighting, the manipulation, the projecting. I just can't. I can't. And so, yeah, I'm definitely on one app, for example, I definitely unfriended and blocked a lot of people. I was even blocking people that I wasn't even friends with. If Facebook was showing me a group post and they was talking crazy in them comments, block, don't even know them, and they blocked, right? Because that's the thing that a lot of us, I think, why we're so sad and down and out is because for 107 days, we got to remember a time when everybody was happier, when everybody was more joyful, when it wasn't always something crazy. Did things happen? Yes. Like 9/11 happened, Katrina happened, like things happened. But there was this time when, the people running things weren't nasty, they weren't mean, just because they could, and there weren't people cheering it. That's the crazy part. There are people cheering it. So we had 107 days where we got to feel joy again. We got to be hopeful again, right? We had some sense of normalcy for 107 days, right? We, for 107 days, got to live in a fairy tale, so to speak, because I don't know when we'll ever be able to do that again. I don't know. I don't know what happens at the end of 4 years, right? He asked for just one more, and you'll never have to vote again. So Yeah. So definitely protect your peace. Communication is such an important thing. And there, you have to know. I'm not saying go and just unilaterally unfriend people, right? If you've been having conversation and getting nowhere, and they're like gloating and being disrespectful and being mean to people, let them people go. Let them go. Right? Let them go. Because one thing I will tell you is the United States, I will say, has two different problems. One, hey girl, hey. There is a certain segment of the population, they're looking for a daddy. Right? They are looking for a daddy. They got daddy issues, right? Even if you look at some of their rhetoric and the memes and that, like I've seen too with him standing in front of the White House and it says daddy's home. Like, he ain't my daddy. Like, I would never think of him in the light of a father figure, right? So there are people looking for a father figure, right? And then because one thing I studied in college was transactional analysis. So it's basically like in the social construct of the family, of friendship, of work and other places, people play games, right? And most communication happens between three ego states: parent, adult, and child. And the ideal ego state is I'm talking to you, Ash, from my adult standpoint, and you being in your adult ego standpoint, right? There are times when that might be your normal default state, but in times of crisis, in various times, you might, almost like fight or flight. You're either going to become like parental or you're going to become child. And it can vary depending on who you are working with. Like, most girls who are daddy's girls, we know how to get what we want from our daddy, right? We go into like our childlike state. Ashley says, I have daddy issues, but the orange will never be one of them. Exactly, girl. Exactly. And my daddy has always been in my life. But yeah, I think everybody has some sort of mother wound or father wound, right? Like, it's very difficult to get out of childhood without having some sort of trauma. You can have the best of parents, but life may throw you trauma, right? And so the thing is people want to belong to something. And there's a quote, I can't remember who it's by, but it says, when you know who you know who you are not. Because, and then they talk about, I can't remember the exact words, but people will ascribe an identity to you, right? And that's what I see has happened to a lot of people. They have become MAGA. They have become snowflake. They have become liberal. And me, like, I rebuke labels, right? Like, in the coaching space, so many people want to, they take their human design, they take their Enneagram, they take their Jung, which it used to be MBTI, to know if they are INTFJ or whatever. And people literally walk around with this stuff like it is a badge of honor. It's like a badge of honor to them, right? And they're like hens. They cluck about it, like, oh, what's your Enneagram? What's your disc number? That's another one. And I've taken one or two of them. I honestly don't remember my results, because what I'm not going to do is give somebody fuel to now label me and put me in a box and ascribe an identity to me. And I don't want to know yours, because I don't want to ascribe an identity to you. I want to get to know you for who you are and love you and accept you for who you are. And yes, we all have room for improvement, right? So that people, running around, oh, I'm an Enneagram 9, I'm an Enneagram 8. Like, that just does not impress me. I and I get it. There are coaches who that's their entire business, what their business is around. But yeah, no, I don't take those for that reason. And that's the same thing with a lot of these jobs that I've been talking about. They want to take all these tests and analyze you and assess you and throw a label on you. And I rebuke it. I rebuke it. Do I sometimes have to do it? Yeah, but as much as I can get away with not doing it, I'm not. And so one of the things I see, particularly in my community, is there are people, entrepreneurship is up, especially around women like me, right? We're one of the most entrepreneurial groups and one of the most educated groups in the country. And that's why they want to get rid of the Department of Education too, by the way. And so we are entrepreneurs. And in the entrepreneur space, I see a lot of people who have hired coaches, right? They have hired mentors, right? And that mentor, it's a racket. I don't mean a racket, but you know what I mean? There's a system, not necessarily a system, but most coaches have at least one coach or a very good therapist, right? People want labels so they can sort others in their own boxes. Not everyone fits in a box. That's why we vibe, boo. That's my girl. That's my girl. We go way back, right? So, the coaches have a coach and that coach has a mentor or a coach, usually like 2 or 3 different people, not all getting paid off of each other or anything like that. It's just most people tend to have coaching, just like in your job, you tend to report to somebody. People will end up hiring somebody to not so much be a boss, but to guide them, advise them, and things like that. Right. And what I see happening is, especially at a certain income and education level, I see a couple different things. In one case, people start to make a little bit more money than they've ever made in a week or day or a month in their life. And they feel they got to start doing all the lifestyle marketing and that includes going and paying a bunch of money to a coach that they probably, when you get to 20 and 30 and 40 and $50,000, some of these people, I don't know that I would pay them that. I'm gonna just say, right? But that's just because I don't know them. If I got to know them and their method and everything, I might feel differently. But I don't look at a coach and decide to buy a coach based off of the car that they drive, the house that they live, and them flying on jets. That's not what I look at. Okay. I also don't look at just because they made a lot of money, because it doesn't mean they did it the right way. It doesn't mean they did it legally, right? And so what I find with people who are lower on the rung, so to speak, just because I don't have another phrase for it, they begin to take on, and this actually happens at a few different levels, they begin to take on the identity of their coach. And coaches are coaching and guiding them on things that they shouldn't be, like politics. And they pretend like it's indirect, it's a part of their content or that, but to the wrong mind, they start absorbing that. They start becoming that, right? Because I'm going to just tell you, if you don't qualify for Afterpay or Klarna, and you put that man back in office, baby, that's weird. That's a misalignment. And we talked about aspirational versus inspirational. That's a little bit weird. It's a little weird. Okay? People's egos get in the way for sure. They absolutely get in the way. And that's the thing with not knowing who you are, not doing the shadow work, Ash, not doing the internal work, the personal development, is you don't know who you are. So then you begin to take on this identity and let your ego get in the way. And now you are down this rabbit hole, and you're just doing things because someone else is doing it and saying it, and you're not really even thinking about what you're doing, saying, or how it impacts you. And that's how people end up getting manipulated. And then they get mad and things get bad from there, is all I'll say. Right? So you have to protect yourself. And the best way to do that is to do the personal development, to really get to know yourself, to know what you are about, and know what your boundaries are, right? Because I, as a coach, will set boundaries with people when I work with them. Like, hey, at the end of the day, boo, this is your business. You will not be out here saying that you did this and you failed, and it's because I told you to do it. At the end of the day, this is your business, and you are responsible and accountable to your business for the decisions that you make. I can guide you, I can advise you, but at the end of the day, it is your decision. That inner work is so important, right? And what we're seeing is a lot of people who think they've done the inner work, but what they've done is, number one, their energy has been harvested. That's a whole other talk. Their energy has been harvested, right? Because their coach, when they're ascribing their identity, they're basically taking their energy from them. When you let a coach ascribe an identity to you, you take on their identity. Now you're giving them your energy, right? You're giving them your energy through your time, your attention, through your works, right? And you are basically becoming like a surrogate. They use that term a lot in the campaigns, right? So then you become like a surrogate, right? So they're harvesting your energy because they have to, because their coach has harvested their energy, right? That's why I always give credit where credit is due. But some of y'all give y'all coaches, y'all mentors, and everybody, y'all make them the brand and y'all market them and not yourself. Okay? Not yourself. You can collaborate with them in a way that edifies them, but doesn't take from you and your brand. But most people don't do that. Y'all just out here marketing somebody else and building them up and getting them paid, which again is harvesting your energy. It's being a energy vampire. Being an energy vampire, right? Like, I get it. I have people who tag me on things, who, you know, will refer me, will tag me. We all want that, right? But they still very much have their own brand. And I'm not telling them who their politics should be, right? I'm not doing it in such a way where I'm pretending like I'm detached from it, but I'm still very much giving my opinion, right? Like, there was a lot of that going on. And unfortunately, a lot of people are going to find that they've been bamboozled because their energy has been harvested, especially their brain power. And then when things really start to hit the fan and they feel it, but then they're going to blame everybody else. They're going to blame just what they're doing now. They're going to blame the immigrants. They're going to blame Black people. They're going to blame the Latinos. They're going to blame everybody but themselves when they're the ones who were willing participants. Yes, they won't see it until it's too late. And I can't do nothing for you. Don't even come to me. Don't even ask me. Don't even think about it. And won't take accountability. You're absolutely right, boo. If you want to come on, you can come on with me and talk. They will not take accountability, which is funny because that's what they scream at minorities, Black people, you know, Asians, Indians, they, especially Black people, they love throwing that word around to us, right? Because I'll say this, have you not noticed that your TikTok algorithm, your FYP has constantly been switching up and looks different in recent weeks, ever since they announced that all those influencers were getting paid and scammed by the Ruskies or whatever? Because I've definitely noticed. Definitely noticed that. So, you know, you just got to be careful when, I always tell people, like, when you get a coach, you don't have to do what they say. Now, some will fire you if you don't do what they say, but a good coach is not going to tell you how to think. They're going to help you learn how to think. I'll say it again. They don't tell you what to think. They help you learn how to think. Like, these are the things you need to consider. After this, what about that? Did you think about this? Did you think about that? And you begin to learn how to think. Because the reality is most people do not know how to think, because their entire lives they have been told what to do by their parents, their teacher, their coach, their boss on the job, to the point that most people are pretty much just cut off from any autonomy. They are constantly, just doing what everybody else wants them to do, what everyone else wants them to think, right? Because this also helps you understand why people voted against their own best interest. That between that and ascribing, taking on the identity that's ascribed to you, right? I never let anybody say to me, "Oh, you seem like," "Oh, do I really? What made you think that?" "Oh, that's interesting." I don't argue it. I don't argue for it or against it, because I'm not giving it energy. That's what they're there for, to take your energy. And I had no idea how to come on with you. Oh, I think if you hit, there's some buttons at the bottom, like blue and pink. I think you can hit those. Or if you go live, it will give you a list of who also is live, and you can request to join mine. Let me see if it will allow me to invite you. No, it's not giving me the ability to invite you. No. And I don't want to accidentally block you. But yeah, you got to be careful, because some of these coaches are real shisty, real shady. Oh, I have 3 new messages. Okay, so it's give me a second. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, some of the stuff I see happening is just wild. It's just wild, right? It's absolutely crazy. So here's the thing. We'll be able to get through it. We always do. This is probably the scariest of all, because this is very deep into darkness. Some of the, the possibilities, and even the things that have been said that are going to be done. Somebody said to me, "Well, he's not even going to be able to do half of what he said." If he just does half, if he just does half of what he said he's going to do, that's not good. It's good that he doesn't get to do all of it, but even just half is quite damaging. Quite damaging. It's insanely damaging. Right? Like overturning RVW and all that stuff. Dodd's, I think it was called. I don't know if we're ever going to be able to fix that. You know what I mean? If he gets to put on 2 more justices, and they're saying they're going to be young justices. Okay. Oh, there you are. I see you. No, I don't know if it's going. Oh, you are on half the screen. Okay. Hey, girl. Hey.
Hi.
Did you go get pretty? Because I sure ain't.
Oh, no.
It's been so long since we've been camera to camera.
I know, gosh, like 10 years since we've been like on a feed together. How are you?
I'm great. How are you? Your hair looks lighter.
It's all washed out. I need to do something with it, but
your spooky season is over too.
My spooky season is over. Yep. I just had my last spooky client Saturday.
Yeah.
So
you do such great work too. I was looking at one of the haunted house people that you did, like with the dark eyes and that. I was just like, she is truly an artist, man.
Oh, you're talking about my clown that I did with the
clown? Yeah. I saw it's like 3 or 4 that you did.
Yeah, I had 3 or 4 this year. I had one guy so he's a private client that books me just for his own Halloween party. Okay. Like he throws a private party. And every year he's like, how can we outdo the last? And so this year we had a full prosthetic mask, but then we also attached these fake dentures to make it look like his eyes and his mouth were all the same. That was a new
I think
thing
that's
for
the
me,
one
but
I
it turned
saw.
out.
I mean, I saw all of them, but I think that's the one I'm talking about. Yeah, that was crazy.
Yeah. Thanks.
Like, that's talent. That is
I
talent.
appreciate that.
Yeah.
So I was just scrolling and I saw you and I was like, let me just join for a second.
Yeah, no, I'm glad you did. I'm glad I get to chat with you. I feel like today, that's the good thing that's come out of today. I've had like conversation with people. You're like the second person. It's been several years. And at least you and I, we will tap in on Messenger and different platforms in the comments.
Yeah.
From time to time. This person, I just haven't really even seen online in 2, maybe 3 years, more like a year or two. And so, just tapped in a Messenger and just like, hey, how you doing? And, appreciate you, because my block button was in full force today, full effect.
Yeah. Well, my block button and my unfriend button has been hot for the last little bit.
Same. Mm-hmm.
But I also have been in this today more or less like, let me just take a break.
Yeah.
I can't block fast enough, and I'm just like, you know what? I'm just going to take a moment and for my own peace and well-being, and like everybody else.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah.
I tried to. I went outside for a little bit, came over by my auntie's house, and and some stuff she just doesn't get. Right. She just doesn't get it. And it's just like, I don't even try to.
So I don't know what the weather was like for you where you're at, but for me in Tennessee, it was very gloomy all day long. And so it just felt very somber for all of the day. And I was just like, wow, this is very fitting. Like the whole energetic shift that's happened in the last not even 24 hours is crazy.
Well, and there are, girlies and some fellas who say it's not over. That there's still,
So, do you want to talk the astrology of things?
Sure, why not?
So, when you look at the astrology of things, which you don't have to believe that astrology is real. Astrology is more along the lines of like looking at the pattern of things. Mm-hmm. So when you look at the pattern of how certain transits or aspects land, it looked like Kamala had the better transits. Mm-hmm. And there are some astrologers like Lori with the Awake Space podcast who is an amazing astrologer, where she's like, there's going to be some things coming up. And she's not the only one. Mm-hmm. And I also intuitively feel like there's still things to come out of this, whether it's what we think it is going to be or what we hope that it is. That's not what I'm saying at all. All I'm saying is that there is definitely an energy of things that are coming through. But even with those aspects or transits that may have looked like Kamala had the better piece of it, there are still things in Trump's chart that gives him the benefit of the doubt kind of stuff. And that's why we're seeing what we're seeing now.
Some chaos.
Yeah, with Trump's chart, he has Jupiter really aligning in some places, and Jupiter is a planet that represents a lot of luck. It's one of the most beneficial planets. So when you have good transits, you tend to have better outcomes, but even with Kamala's chart, she had some really strong aspects in her pieces of her public persona and her career aspect. So there could still be some things that are coming down the pipeline. Yeah. Again, it may not be the way that we want it to be, but I think there's still going to be things that come around that shock people. So
yeah, because kind of what I got too was like, and I've heard this not even from an astrological, but from people like, in the church and spiritually, that winning it was only a piece of it. Like there's still more. And some of that energy, the things that are planned and want to be done may not get to even happen. So, honestly, that gives me some comfort that like, and I think that's part of the process, right? Because because it's a grief process. There's the bargaining, negotiation, and all those steps, right? And that gives me the ability to not be like, oh, there's still like it might get overturned or anything like that. To just know, like, hey, they might end up really hurting themselves more than they actually.
Yeah, and I think on a spiritual level, like on a collective level, spiritually, we have to focus on the positive perspective, and not focus so much on what's not working out in our favor or what's, and that kind of stuff. But on a collective scale, things are shifting, and they've been shifting for a while.
Right.
I mean, we've all felt like, even if you're not necessarily a spiritual girly, like, but I know that me and you both are.
Right.
But for those that may see this and they're not really a spiritual girly, like you feel that energetic change on a collective scale, and that's going to continue down that pipeline. And all we can do is hope for the best and focus on what we can control and trust the universe with where we can't control it. And just really just do our part to continue being brave for a little while longer.
Yeah.
So
yeah, and protect your peace.
1000%.
Protect your peace. Because
my goals over the last couple of years have been about really building my community and things like that. But over the last year, I've been like, I just want to be the witch in the woods where nobody bothers me.
girl.
Like, I don't want to. I just want my little cabin in the woods where I can be a Disney princess and maybe do the homesteading shit that I know nothing about.
Right. I say I want to do it until I have to actually do some physical labor, and then I'm gonna be like, I don't know about this whole thing. Like if I homestead, I want to be like Martha Stewart and be able to pay a staff to do it for me.
Yes. Yeah, for sure. For sure. But yeah, that's kind of where my goals have shifted, is like I'm a social person, but I also want, like, I'm that extroverted introvert. Like I can be the extroverted piece when I need to be, but I'd prefer to be by myself.
Right.
And so with the way that things have shifted, it's like the further I want to be away from everything else.
I hear you there, girl. I hear you there, but so tell people how we've worked together before.
Oh gosh. Well, we did the Market America thing for, we both did that for a long time.
Yeah.
And then we just realized that things didn't align for us so much. And we had much bigger talents than what that offers. But we were able to really collab in ways for even being states away.
Right.
So that's what I love about you, is that we've been able to really collab, even if it's been a long time, to really talk about how to market yourself. Because if it wasn't for you, like, my community wouldn't be built the way it's built. Because I did your class when, God, when was that? That was 2018.
So, yeah. So that would have been Influence Booster.
Yeah. So, because I was looking at ways on how to market myself, because I didn't know what the hell I was doing. And I took the Influence Booster, and then look at me now, influencing.
Yeah, because how many followers do you have on TikTok now?
77,000.
Yeah, that is awesome.
But I haven't really been active on TikTok, so that's been a stagnant number for a long time. I'm trying to get back into it, but it's definitely been one of those.
But I like the way that you grew it, right? Because the way you grew it, you took people being negative toward you, and you reverse Uno'd it on them, and you said, "This is who I am. I'm showing up. I'm being me." and you built, I mean, you already had a brand, but you were able to fold that into your brand. And then I know for the longest you had wanted to start doing your retreats, and then you started doing your retreats. So I always loved that about you, that you just have such a positive
Thank you.
attitude, and you know, you ain't taking shit from nobody.
No, in fact, I had a situation at my, because I have a day job. So I had a situation at my day job, and somebody came at me sideways, and my coworker was like, "They caught you on a good day, because any other day would have not gone well for them."
Right.
Like, yeah, you're right.
Right. Right. Yeah.
So, but yeah, I don't take, over the last year or two, I've really had some ego deaths, because you were talking about that. We were talking about the ego and things
Girl,
before
I
I hopped
have
on.
too. That will make you shed that ego.
Listen, and that ego death has caught me in a way where I'm like, the way I was showing up on TikTok, even though it really built a brand for myself, was not the way I want to continue to show up on
That's
TikTok.
fair. Yeah. It
And
evolves
so,
and changes.
absolutely, and so that's why my TikTok's kind of stagnant up until recently, where I'm just like, okay, let's see, what does that look like now? What does my brand look like now? Because my brand is still in the spiritual astrology girly kind of way, but I do talk a lot about shadow work. And I have a subscription community where we meet twice a month for like the new moon and the full moon, and we really dive into that. But I don't show that side as much on TikTok, so that's where I'm like, how vulnerable do I want to be?
Sounds like you
for all
need to
day?
do a strategy session.
I know, right? And so that's kind of where I'm at. And so, but I also, to the point, and maybe it's my age too, because I'm almost 40, but I don't want to be on social media anymore. I've been on social media since Facebook was created, so MySpace and all that stuff, and I'm like, I just don't want to show up the way that social media wants you to show up. And that's the hard part too, is that
And you're going to
finding
go
that
through that
balance.
again in another 5 to 7 years, right? Because I go through it every so many years, where I'm like,
Yeah,
what am I
because
doing?
well, that's where
Why
I'm at. I mean,
am I
2018.
here? Why am I here?
Right,
I
absolutely.
sometimes say to myself, what do you want, Tamira? Like in those dramatic movies, like a Tyler Perry movie. What do you want?
Yes. But if you think about it, when I started with your influence booster in 2018, we're at 7 years now.
Yeah.
And so that's exactly what it is. And so we did a new moon meetup last week with my community, and TikTok influenced me, and I bought the Conversations with Your Inner Self cards. I don't know if you've seen them.
No.
And well, it's kind of like a card game, but it's not a game. Like it's meant for you to
Like
sit down and
prompts.
really
I might
reflect.
have seen that. Yeah, they're like kind of like journal
And-
prompts, like exploration prompts.
Absolutely. And so in this moon meetup, because it's a virtual meetup, so we're on like a Zoom call, and we're chatting about how we're feeling collectively, what the astrology looks like with what we're feeling, and it always lines up. And then I pull a shadow card, because I have a deck of cards that represent the shadows. And I decided to pull this new deck of prompts out, and the integrating card was, how can your shadow self help you with your purpose? And since I'm in this piece of like, what the am I doing right now? It's very convenient that happened to be the one card that shuffled out of the deck for all of us to kind of sit with. So,
Right.
because especially with the changes that are happening in our communities and in our country and things like that, where's that shadow projecting our fears, our failures, our abandonments, whatever they may be,
Right.
that's preventing us from really showing up the way that God intended, kind of thing.
That took me to when you were talking about, well, since 2018, it's been about 7 years. In corporate America, around 5 years, I would start to get nervous in a position, right? In a company, like, I think I need to go. I think my time up is, and it was always like right at 5 years. And it was the same thing with the two big major relationships in my life. Like, oh, okay, 5 years, 5 years. And, so there's something about that 5 years for me for the longest that was kind of like, there was something triggering behind it. And I had to begin to explore.
So have you done that exploration?
I started it, but then I got to be okay because I kind of got over the 5 year hump. I stopped.
Yeah. Well, sometimes
I stopped obsessing about it.
Yeah, when it comes to integration, like integrating our shadow self, sometimes it is just a little layer that we have to pull back and just examine, but not have to
Right.
eat,
Right.
versus there are some things that, because our shadow is like that onion piece, there's many layers to it, and triggers are one of those things where triggers come up in reactions, not in memories, kind of thing. And so being able to look at that and say, okay, I'm okay with it now, versus, okay, this is going to take me a while. That's okay. It's either, both of those are okay.
Right.
So,
Right. Yeah. So, like I said, it just really became like, that's interesting, and start digging into it a little bit. And I could see how this happened and why that happened. And then, I don't know, just a bunch of other work that I've done where it's like, okay, one of my biggest things is I always look back to, well, when this happened, the next thing is what happened. So that's what's going to happen. And I had to stop doing that.
well, you're waiting for the other shoe to drop because of those past experiences.
Like, okay, in my first job out of corporate America, there was my boss's boss got a new boss at this time, right around like the 4 year, 5 year mark. And that made me really nervous. That really started sending off the signals in my brain. And so I got really kind of nervous, and I probably manifested why I was ready to go. Right. And so now my boss's boss has a new boss, and it's 4 years in, 5 years in. And because that happened that time, it's going to happen this time. So I need to go. When that boss's boss lasted like 3 months and was gone.
Yeah. Yeah. But that's just how our own traumas manifest in ways,
Right.
and that's not, that can be in your relationships, that can be in your friendships, all sorts of ways, that little things that you never really know.
Yeah, because I have, unfortunately, the memory of an elephant, right? And so for me, a lot of times, I'm not only remembering, I'm remembering the date, I'm remembering the time, I'm remembering what I was wearing, I'm remembering how the air smelled. I remember being in that exact moment. And I heard something recently, and it kind of goes back to the ascribing someone else's identity, or letting them ascribe an identity onto you. And it's like, for some of us, the reason we're not manifesting is because we are taking on, we have too much empathy. We're taking on how other people feel. And so we're blocking our own desires and manifesting them, and manifesting because we are taking on someone else's energy, so to speak.
That, but it's also too, I think that we hold on to too many expectations. So whether that's somebody else's expectations or your own expectations, because when it comes to manifestation, the way that I teach it is, I look at the universe as a parent, and we're its children. So when you're asking for something, like you're trying to manifest money, for example, if you just say, I want juice, okay, I just want money, the universe is going to give you opportunities to have that juice, but it may be apple juice where you really wanted orange juice.
Right.
And the expectation was that you were going to get orange juice, but the universe says, well, all I have is apple. How you react to that, that lack of, getting what you wanted, if you throw a temper tantrum about it, the universe says, well, I'm not giving this to you again. But if you can accept that the apple juice is still juice, and you got what you wanted, and you have that attitude of gratitude, the universe is going to say, okay, I'm going to remember that orange juice is what you wanted for next time.
Right.
So when you look at it as money, if you just say I want money and the universe lays a dollar bill in your back pocket that you forgot about, that's still money. So having that attitude of gratitude is still going to be
Yes.
important for the next time, right? But money is energetic. And so the universe reacts to energy. And so if you are looking at the aspect of money in the sense of like, what does $10,000 feel like energetically versus $2,000 energetically? The universe is going to align accordingly. And so, but it doesn't mean that you're just going to stumble on $10,000. What that means is that the universe is going to align opportunities where you can make 1,000 here, 5 there, whatever it may be. And you will get to that energetic piece of 10. But again, it's all about that attitude of gratitude and letting go of the expectation of how, when, why, and whatever when it comes to you.
Which was hard for me, girl. That was so hard. It was
It's so hard.
because it's the
It's
oldest
still hard
child.
for me sometimes.
Yes. Okay, so I'm the oldest child, oldest grandchild, oldest niece, responsible for everybody. Type A, made goals, and even having a baby at 18 didn't stop me from accomplishing my goals. I just always felt like I had to be in control and I had to be doing things, and instead of just letting go and not knowing, not being okay with not knowing the how, just knowing and believing that it was going to happen. Because that's ultimately, I didn't know how I was going to go to college. I just knew I was going. And that's how I was able to manifest that dream, right? Down to the apartment I lived in college. I wanted to live in that neighborhood as a child. I never knew how I was going to live there. I just knew I always wanted to live in that neighborhood. And there I was with my, 1-year-old, I think at the time. And she lived there until she was like 4. So I had to learn to not be so having to
In
know
control.
yeah, and if I didn't know the how, I was going to create the how, and I was going to take action, and I was going to do things. One of the things in the last year that I've definitely learned is rest. Sometimes
Yes.
the best thing you can do is just rest, and you wake up, and boom, it's right there.
Yes. That's something I've talked about with my community a little bit, is that over the last 2.5 years, almost 2.5 years, is that everything has crumbled around me in regards to my friendships and how my community is showing up for each other, even my family kind of stuff. And there's a lot of grief around that, but there's also a lot of like, okay, I need to sit still for a minute and see what the universe is bringing my way, because a lot of times you have to clear out the old to make room for the new. And that's what's been happening, is a lot of clearing out and outgrowing and purging and other things. But man, is it so hard. That moment where you're getting pulled back before you get shot forward is that kind of piece to it.
And that's kind of taking me back to today and having to because there are online relationships and real life relationships that I've known for some time that just were not in alignment and they didn't serve me anymore. But I felt obligated, like you said, expectations placed on yourself or other people placing them on you, to not let them go. And what I've been getting recently is, for me to get to where I'm going next, I've got to finally let some things go. And I think today pushed that to happen. So I have to be grateful for it, for that reason.
Yeah, there's still going to be that what ifs that are probably sitting in the back of your mind, but it's for growth to happen, you've got to step outside of that comfort. So,
And what I said to myself, Ash, was, okay, especially in this one particular case, if the friendship really was that, right? If it really was that, at some point, we will come back together, have communication, and figure it out. And if it doesn't happen, that's okay because that's what's supposed to be like that. One of my favorite little quotes, poems, or whatever, and sayings in middle school was, reminds me of my first boyfriend, my first major crush. If you love something, set it free. If it comes back to you, it's yours. If it doesn't, it never was anyway. And so that's what I did, because it's not easy letting people that you have history with go, right? Because sometimes we naturally grow apart, or not even grow apart. We just are still there, but we just are busy in the conundrum of life. We all have our own lives and things that are going on, but you always find a way to reach out and check in and that. And in this one case, I think too, there was some guilt, because I'm like, I know if I kind of stop truly being their friend, they really have like one other person that they could really call their friend. But that's having too much empathy and taking on what is someone else's journey, not mine. To stay in my lane. Stay in my lane.
Yep. Absolutely. And I think it's also one of those things where when you have somebody for so long, there's that familiarity of an old version of yourself that you're still clinging on to too. That that fear of, if I lose this, who am I? But like you said before, if you know who you are, you know who you are. But that's still, there's still gonna always be versions of yourself where you're like, well, that's what makes up me now. So letting that go, what void does that bring, kind of thing.
Yeah. Because I met this person in my 30s, and let me tell you, my 30s were a blast. Like, my 30s owe me nothing. Nothing. But it wasn't even like the partying and stuff, right? Sometimes it's just like we live in different cities now, but when we lived in the same city, in the same neighborhood, on like a random Tuesday, we might find ourselves at each other's house watching Real Housewives of whatever, drinking wine, talking office politics, and then going home, going to bed, and starting the whole process over the next day, or just randomly going out for cocktails or tapas or whatever. So yeah, very good talk.
It has been a good talk.
Yeah. So do you have any online offers? I know you talked about a membership.
So I currently have a membership. It's Mighty Network, which is similar to a Patreon.
Okay.
So $5 a month. We meet twice a month, basically, for the new moon and full moon, and we get into the nitty gritty of all the astrology aspects. But there's still other things in there, little nuggets on spiritual journey, shadow work, personal growth, that kind of stuff. So that's the main thing right now. I've got my retreat coming up, my third retreat coming up next June. So we've only got 3 tickets left before it sells out, and I'm so excited. We have a beautiful cabin in the mountains of Georgia that, like, all the amenities, and we really talk about growth and goals and getting into the spiritual side of things too. So
yeah,
my favorite stuff ever.
I love it.
Yeah.
And where can they find you or information?
Yeah, so you can find me at heyashmac.com. So, or on all the social media platforms like Hey Girl Hey, Hey Ashmac, and check out some of the events that are happening. Check out some of the membership pieces and things like that. So
awesome.
So, yeah.
Awesome. You don't have to go, but I don't want you to think that.
Well, I've enjoyed our little chat, so we'll have to do it again. But I do have to get things settled for the evening because it was an impromptu get-togethers.
Yeah. No, I'm not going to be on much longer myself. So
yeah,
thanks for hopping on. Good to catch up.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me, and I hopefully we'll talk again soon.
All right, babe. Talk to you later.
All right, bye.
Oh, that was fun. I love having different people come on and share their journey. That was very impromptu. And it's funny how it all just kind of like kept coming back to the same thing, It's just really important that you know who you are. And that's why I say personal development is the number one income producing skill, right? Your income will seldom exceed your personal development, right? So the more you invest in yourself, the more you get to know yourself, the more you actually get to trust yourself. And the more you get to trust yourself, the easier it becomes to not have to feel in control and have to know the how, right? It becomes a lot easier to go with the flow and just know and really trusting yourself and believing yourself. Because that's one of the things I found with my entrepreneurial journey, for example. And that is, I think coming from a very blue collar black background has really shaped a lot of my mindset. Of course it has, right? And so one of the things that, because I've done the entrepreneur thing for a while and multiple times, and, Ghost from Christmas Past, like I already talked about with my family, and hearing certain sound bites in my head, and that combined with that not knowing how, which, having a baby at 18, how is really important. I'm going to just say that, right? I'm not 18, by the way. Much older. That 18-year-old is now 32. So you could do the math. That how is really important, and not knowing that how when someone else is solely reliant on you, that's a lot of pressure. That is talk about your central nervous system getting wrecked, right? When you get to really know yourself and trust yourself, you don't have to know that how becomes less scary. You just always know, like, hey, I made it. I've done it before. I'll do it again. Right. Like I've never feared losing a business, because if you've ever quote unquote failed in business or built a business and then it kind of tapered off, just like you built that one, you can build it again, right? Same thing with like my, like a lot of people get really obsessed and possessive about their followership, right? And it's like, okay, if I've lost an account with nearly 30,000 followers on Instagram, right? And it was a very active and engaged account. It was not a fake account or full of fake followers, right? And so it was like, okay, if I built that, I can build it again. Now I haven't built it again, not on one account. However, if I wanted to, I could. And secondly, the point is I just went with the attitude of I'll just create another account. I'll just keep it moving and keep going. And I made more money with smaller accounts. And I made good money with that one. Okay. But I made more money with smaller accounts. Why? Because experience was on my side. I had already done it before. So, income will seldom exceed your development. And if your income is stuck and your income is not moving, you have to ask yourself, where are you stuck developmentally? And you have to do the work in your personal development to get your income from being clogged up. And I typically have to do that to myself at least once a year, unclog things, because I don't know if I get too complacent or what, but I just get to this point where it's like, okay, things are stuck. And then I start doing the personal development, start doing the things that I need to do, looking at my daily method of operation, right? And, my income producing activities and fixing that. And then things get unclogged. But it's not always just, do more of your income producing activities. Sometimes it's like, you know what? I know I really need to improve on this skill. Let me take a course. Let me take a workshop to help me with this skill. Let me bring somebody in so that I can bring this skill up to where it needs to be to get this going and get it going higher than where it was. And so that's why, I said your coach typically has a coach or a mentor, because we're human and it's all mindset, right? And your coach is typically a couple steps ahead of you, but it doesn't mean that they don't still have things in their own personal development, because as long as we are alive, we are going to need and have to work on our personal development. The minute we stop growing is not good. It's not good. We don't want to be where we are not growing. So I've been on for what now? Got to be close to an hour. Yep, I've been on for an hour. So I am going to get ready to go because number one, I have no makeup on. This angle is bad. My lips look ashy. So I'm going to go and I might come back live later, but definitely tomorrow. If I don't, I will talk to y'all later. Bye.